Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the showdown between the Greenskins, who shall be led by Wurzog atop his mighty pig. And today, my friends, we face off against the Dark Elves, who shall be led by Dob Plays, and it looks like he is going to be coming in hard with Morathi. So certainly the first time I've seen this build, and it's very, very powerful. So let's go ahead and show you guys why before we begin. So Morathi, of course, as you guys know, has two really good AoE debuffs. She has the Heartrender and the Dark Sword, and she also does have the Enchanting Beauty. So together, those effects lower the melee attack of nearby units by, I believe, 18. It's 9 apiece on each of those items, so it's very, very strong. Now, also, we do have the new unit, or new-ish unit, which is the Dark Elf Master. He has an item. Let's go ahead and pause it here and see if we can get the tooltip on the right unit here. Harganeth Executioner is always a little bit tricky. And we'll get it in just a second. And there it is. So he has the Helm of Many Eyes. So this one, of course, is going to be buffing his nearby units of +7 armor, also giving melee attack. So essentially, you get this radius of this kind of goon squad of characters that's going to be debuffing the enemy heavily with Morathi, and also from the shrine nearby. And then you have a couple buffs for yourself. You have the Helm of Many Eyes, which of course is 5 melee attack. Like those micro buffs really can add up and make a pretty substantial difference. I can't remember if the Death Hag has an item that is pertinent here. Yes, she does have the Chill Blade. So the Chill Blade lowers melee attack by 5. So Morathi is going to be 18 and 5 from the Death Hag. So in total, it's going to be negative 23, which is insane. Like most nearby characters, of course, are going to be taking a huge penalty. Granted, they can't be everywhere at once, right? It's only 40 meters, but it's still a really, really cool synergy. Now it gets even more crunk when you get the Bloodrack Shrine. So the Bloodrack Shrine lowers melee defense by 7 and leadership. So basically, it's like a character-centric debuffing army, which I think is really cool. I love it. So let's go and take a look at my army, and we'll be back for the Dark Elves. Here in the front line, we have Wolf Rider Archers for skirmishing, chasing down repeater crossbows, all kinds of stuff like that. Our front line is going to be Savage Orcs with some Black Orcs, and we do also have some Orc Biggins mixed in there as well, just in case he comes in with like the dreaded Medusa. But really, I just like Biggins. Pretty decent against Cav units, also pretty good in combat. I think Biggins are a really, really solid piece in a multitude of matchups. But, and you know, if there's a Hydra, Black Dragon, any number of things, they're okay against those. Now, of course, we do have a Daka line. Daka line's very, very good here in case they come in with any monsters, or Malekith, for example. We have 4 Orc Airboys. We do also have Wurzog with the sniping capability, so he does have Brainbuster and Gaze, Bonewood Staff, of course. We do have a Night Goblin Shaman. Sorry, I almost lost my voice there for a second. In the back, we have a couple of Forest Goblin Spider Riders. They're pretty much a staple in most matchups. A really good tar pit piece. Relatively tanky for the cost. They can tar pit things down, they can poison them, and give you really good battlefield control and counter skirmishing. Now we have a couple anti-cav cores here. We do have the Orc Boar Boys as well as some Squig Herds. The Squig Herds and the Boar Boys designed to just work together to take down either armored infantry or armored cav units under the effects of the WoW. That's pretty much it. Classic Greenskin WoW over there. And for Dob's army, he's got a pretty chaffy front line. Spears, with the exception of the Blades of the Blood Queen, the character Death Star here. He does also have the Bloodrack Shrine, the Medusa, the Siren of Red Ruin, which, again, most of his build is very conducive for having a Death Star because the Siren of Red Ruin also has a pretty good AoE damage ability in the Whale of Malice. So again, you stack this on your characters where there's a big blob fight and you get pretty good value. In the back, he does have Dark Riders and Dark Riders to chase down my Daka and my Skirmishers, and more Dark Riders across the board. So most of the money in this army is very heavily invested in this like center mass here. So we'll see how it can do. And essentially, it's a double Medusa build. He does have a Siren plus also the Bloodrack Shrine, which is pretty awesome. Really like it. Very creative stuff. So here you can see the Morgub's Mage Marauders going to be kiting back, shooting in a little bit, trying to get some pot shots into those elite Blades of the Blood Queen. Dark Riders do scream out of the forest here. Nice little intercept route, but taking some heavy damage on the approach. Goblin Wolf Rider Archers are just a great unit. Very, very cheap, very annoying, and yeah, they really, really do the trick for sure. Nonetheless, the Dark Riders are going to be falling back into the tree line, into the cover of the forest here, a little bit of a hedge. I don't really know what I would call that. And it looks like they are going to be trying to force an engagement here, actually, opting to take this fight, which is pretty risky. Maybe, no, they're actually going to be pulling back, which is certainly a good call, trying to pull me into the spears. And the spears were still hidden, so I didn't actually know these guys were here, but clearly Dov was trying to pull me into the tree line. Now on the other side, my skirmishers are coming around, the Orc Boar Boys and the Squigs getting ready to maybe do a bit of a flank engagement here, and we do drop an effigy of the Git. I don't know how worth it that is, but we do get the effigy, we pin them down, which is essentially a free pick. Wurzog is going to be coming in on his hog, potentially helping out here, but for the most part, this is good. The Squigs and the Orc Boar Boy should win this. Brainbuster is going to be going down as well, doing some friendly fire damage, but for the most part, we're able to take out about 700 gold worth of value instantly with very little losses on our own part. So that was a good engagement for sure, using that effigy. Granted, it's just to get rid of Skirmish Cav, and I could have been using that on like Blades of the Blood Queen or another high value unit. And also on that same note, the Squigs do rampage into Spears, which isn't the best situation for me, so it's a bit of back and forth there. Now here in the back, we do have a bit of a fight. These Squigs, I'm not sure where these guys were going. A little bit of mismicro on my part. I think the Medusa came and I tried to run, and these pigs just got like trapped up. And I was like, hey, if we can at least get the squigs away, that's going to be a decent situation. So nice catch here by Dov using the Medusa to come back here and do some work. Now in the center mass here, the big old shrines coming in. The Orc Daka line is going to be shooting. Black Orcs, thankfully, are immune to Psychology. And it looks like a Wand of Koraidon is going to be coming down from Wrathy, which does, of course, do some pretty good damage. Let's see if it makes contact. I was trying to run and squeal and do all the pig stuff here, and it still hits me and does some really good damage. However, the focal point, like I said, of this Dark Elf army is very centralized, so if we can kind of pick it apart with range tools and just basically throw in sacrificial lambs, like Biggins, and, well, Biggins aren't sacrificial lambs, and the Black Orcs, of course, got pounded as well, but I figured I needed them there just to kind of hold things in place, and you can see the Bloodrack Shrine is in really bad shape. The Orc Daka line doing great damage, also the Vindictive Glares and the Gases of Orc have been coming down, so we have been able to do some really good damage. Granted, Dark Elves do break through. Savage Orcs are now going to be surging in, trying to help out. And the Savage Orcs on the side here were able to relieve the squigs and should be able to do well against the Dread Spears. So far it's a pretty even battle. The bounce power pretty much the entire time has been Dark Elf favored. Probably has something to do with the characters. But yeah, for the most part, it hasn't really changed. The Blades of the Blood Queen are getting a little bit beat up. Savage Orcs kind of grinding in there. We do also have Orc Biggins doing some okay damage. Not great against the heavy armor of these guys, but we're trying our hardest. And of course, all my units are debuffed. So you can see the melee attack here of these spiders is 11 right now, which is pretty low. So very, very solid debuffing from Wrathy as well as those different characters. Brain Buster going down, trying to trigger the Bonewood Staff more importantly. Yeah, I do have some tools for counterbalancing the melee attack debuffs, because every time I cast a spell for a period of, I think, like 7 to 12 seconds, I can't quite remember, I get a pretty good buff to all my combat prowess with the Bonewood Staff. So the shrine is very beat up. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to finish it. My front line is kind of in shambles, so in many ways, I'm going to have to kind of scatter to the wind. We've done really good damage to his infantry. The Blades of the Blood Queen are quite beat up, but pretty much all my infantry is just shreked. Savage Orcs are running here. I have some pigs coming back, some squigs coming back, and Dov is able to secure this position over here by overrunning my Savage Orcs. So bounce power, a little bit Dark Elf favored, but pretty much just the status quo as it's been the entire game. It kind of started out in that way. The Black Orcs are going to be moving back in. Only 25 models. Their melee attack is actually 13 right now, and it looks like the Medusa, the Siren of Red Ruin, is actually taking pot shots at my Pig Lord here at Wurzog, trying to wear him down, and it's certainly doing some good work. Squigs in the back could be charging in, going to clean up the scraps, able to get on the Dread Spears, and Squigs do have a bonus for his infantry, so we'll see if any of these little mushrooms are able to eat these spears. Doesn't look like we're being blessed with that glorious Gork animation right there, but they're trying their best. We also do get some Orc Boar Boys back here who are able to get on the shrine. Missile attack coming in, Vindictive Glare, and Gaze of Mork able to really pound down that shrine. You can see it's at -3 right now, and the pigs should be able to finish it off, which is great. Now I'm having to fall back and basically scatter to the winds, which is of course a classic Greenskin Daka line play, but Dov is moving forward and getting value where he can. Orc Airboys here being worn down. You can also see these Orc Airboys are worn down, so a lot of my Daka pieces are being pushed back, but the thing about this type of a build is it can only be so many places at once. Many other aspects of the battlefield will be struggling, but yeah, I mean, it's really going to be tough to kill. I don't have, you know, now that I look, I don't have too many things in my army that are terribly good against those type of characters, so we're really going to have to rely on our missiles and some scrappy late game plays to get back in this game. So the Orc Airboys are now going to be shooting at the Dread Spears, who are a little bit isolated from their friendly goon squad over here from the Master, Morathi, as well as the Death Hag. Over here we do have the Dark Riders who are in combat with Squigs, but the Orc Biggin should be able to finish them off. And the Shrine lives! 269 in that damn Shrine, it just won't go down. And I really need to make sure I catch these Dark Elf forces and they don't get back to the reinforcing elements of the Shrine or Morathi. So basically here we're going to be going in for a big old push with pretty much everything we have. Pigs are very beat up though, and of course Orc Boar Boys have pretty terrible combat stats, 22 and 22, getting buckled down by the Dark Riders actually. But Savage Orcs and Biggin should be able to kind of trail back in and eventually finish these guys off. And of course Savage Orcs are very good against these spear units. Brain Buster just polishing them off and making the melee attack of my Savage Orcs that much better with the Bonewood Staff proc. And you can see a lot of the Dark Elf forces are basically just being picked apart. Bounce of Power is still Dark Elf favored, but man, these characters must count for a ton of the Bounce of Power. With the Dread Spears and all these guys pretty much taken offline, the Shrine here probably going to go down to these Squigs. They have really good AP values, and their charge bonus is decent at 40, so they do Rampage into the Bloodrack Shrine, -16 or 16 leadership, and these Squigs are able to chew on the chassis and wheels here of the Shrine and take it down. So suddenly, guys, it looks like I have a ton left. I mean, if you look here, I have a ton of archers, I have Wurzog, Spider Riders, but like I said, these characters are very, very powerful, and they're also quite healthy. So we'll do a little bit of fast forwarding here. Dov still does, of course, have the Medusa, so that makes sense. The rest of his army is very, very, was just mostly Bleak Swords and Dread Spears and things like that. And most of the high-value pieces, aside from the Shrine, are in really good shape. I mean, of course, the Blades of the Blood Queen are beat up, but So really, I can understand why the bounce power is like this. So at this point, I know I have a ton of missiles, and I also have a lot of Winds of Magic. So basically here, we're going to be shooting at what we can, just kind of skirmishing and repositioning, moving our forces up, and saving up our Winds of Magic. The Medusas are able to counter skirmish me pretty well. So at this point, I'm like, let's try and snipe the Medusa. I don't know if that was the right play. Perhaps trying to snipe Morathi would have been better. But basically, I try and snipe the Medusa out, knowing that this thing can range me, it can deal with my skirmishers. And you can see we're getting slow incremental damage. We are pulling the bounce power back a little bit, but he did use a nice Soul Stealer there and was able to do some great work. But we are able to get the Dark Riders off. Our Spider Riders and Morgrim's Mangy Marauders were able to be mangy all over the face of those Dark Riders. And from here, we will be trying to goon out the Medusa once again. I think, of course, I don't know, but it's almost out of ammo. I really feel like in retrospect, watching this back, that was probably a mistake because we probably could have killed Morathi or brought her very low, which would have been very substantial for the blob fight. Because Morathi only has 2,700 and the Medusa has like 5,000 or 6,000, I think, in total. So maybe going after Morathi would have been the right play. But nonetheless, here we are going on the Medusa, trying to get the picks where we can. Another missile attack coming in from the little goblin, or it looks like Wurzog actually out on the far side. And the Medusa is getting really low. It should be wavering soon. You can see that the elite sword cav here are also getting quite worn down. We pile in with the Spider Riders, trying to apply poison and really just kind of crack that formation and break off a couple units there, including the elite units. My Docker line's coming in now as well, so the Docker line, the Orc arrows, should be able to finish off the Blades of the Blood Queen quite happily. And now you can see we do use an Effigy of the Gate, which also does damage, and we are able to break off the Medusa. So suddenly, all the Dark Elf supporting elements are gone. There's 2 of the Blades of the Blood Queen, but still these characters lie in the shadows. We send in some Savage Orcs to fight, but their melee attack is so heavily neutered. They're down to 5, so it's really rough. Like, we can't really go in there and fight. I think a substantial misplay was not shooting Morathi. So we have to kind of waddle in here. I, of course, have my ammunition. I have a little bit of Winds of Magic left, but not too much. You can see I used like 4 or 5 missile attacks trying to finish off that Medusa, if not more. So I don't have too many tools to kind of wear these guys down aside from the Daka. So we're going to be shooting, but as I start to run out of ammo, of course, the bounce power is going to go even more and more in the favor of the Dark Elves, who are just grinding through all of my infantry. Whenever I send anything into combat, they basically just don't do anything because of the melee attack debuffs. And yeah, here comes the Savage Orcs. So that's pretty much going to be it. Very well played. Another Soul Stealer coming down. It was an awesome build, seeing the Medusa being used well and the Shrine being used well. But really, it came down to me not having the tools to kill the characters. Although maybe I did have the tools. But in the end there, I probably should have killed Morathi. The Medusa, I feel like I could like tar pit with chaff and infantry and things like that. And then suddenly my troops would have like 18 melee attack back. I don't know if it would have been enough to win the game, but I feel like, yeah, and Morathi had 2 Soul Stealers also. So she had pretty ample healing. So I don't know how effective trying to snipe her would be. And I think during the battle, that was one of my schools of thought. I was like, if I snipe the Medusa, it can't heal itself, but Morathi can. But yeah, ultimately, it was a very well-played game. It was very back and forth, even though the bounce power was mostly Dark Elf favored for most of the game. There was a lot of moments where we were able to get some good value and force back certain targets. But yeah, my build didn't have enough to deal with the Morathi kind of a goon squad here. And my normal pick against Dark Elves is Azag, and Azag would be an outstanding counter against this build. He would be able to spam Spirit Leech and Cycle Charge, and he's really, really good at gooning characters and pushing them away from their support and also killing things like a Medusa. So I think I would probably just opt to not go with Wurzog. I would maybe keep the Goblin for some sniping with just Spirit Leech, and from there I think that would be a much more optimal build. But aside from that, I think the rest of the build was fine. So very well played to Dav. Awesome build. Make sure to go check him out on his YouTube channel. And on that note, guys, we will see you on the other side. Take care.